Last week, Larson, you dropped a tepid take on us.
What was that?
I think it was like you like cold coffee or something like that.
No, I don't like really hot coffee.
Oh, okay.
I don't like cold. I don't really like iced coffee either. It has to be like apparently somewhere between 75 and maybe 95 degrees.
All right, I'm gonna drop a hot take on you, man.
What?
This isn't tepid. This is hot. This is steamy hot.
All right.
Little Debbie products are better than Hostess products.
I don't think that's that.
That's so hot.
It's not that much of a stretch.
Oh, hot take time. What's our first hot take
This
today,
is
Larson?
from BSK in charge.
Okay.
Says Rusev Day was overrated. I don't think I had a chance to last long enough to really be underrated or overrated.
I think, you know what? One reason why I put that on here is because I 1,000% agree with it. Because here's the thing. Look, man. I know. I don't think anybody in Rusev Day was all that interesting. And I think they were given enough time to show what they could do. And it's like, okay, you got the singing guy, and that's all he is. He's just a singing guy. I don't think Aiden English ever did much since he was in the Vaudevillains, and that even I didn't really understand.
It's a time traveler.
Was he, though?
Or he liked the old-timey stuff.
Or were they just fans of old-timey stuff?
I think they were time travelers, Steve.
And like Rusev in WWE, the best Rusev is when he was checked out on creative. When he was like, this is crap. The whole Dolph Ziggler, whatever that angle was.
Dog Ziggler, yeah.
That was when Rusev was at his best because he clearly didn't care about anything.
I don't think he really cared about Rusev Day either, honestly.
I know, exactly. Like, what? It's like, okay, I get it. Every day is Rusev Day. I get it. But, like, what they never did, like, I know that they were never really given a chance to do anything, but I don't know what they ever could have done.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't consider them overrated simply because they were never really in a position to do much. They never really did much with them. They were, like, maybe featured somewhat for a couple weeks, and they were like, nah, we're not going to do anything with this. And then it was over with.
I feel like I'll amend this hot take, and I'm sure this friendo would be cool with it.
All right.
Vince was right about Rusev Day.
I don't know. We see what Miro's done in AEW. There's obviously depth to his performance. Vince, I think, dropped the ball and not trying to offer up more than just a catchphrase.
Has Miro really done a whole lot in AEW?
The Redeemer character is it's a really interesting character.
I like the Redeemer character. I do think that the booking in that one is Tony. I think Tony Khan is wrong about the Redeemer, but Vince was right about Rusev Day.
I feel like Vince could have been wrong about Rusev Day if Miro was given the leeway to do something with depth.
All right.
Same friendo here also says nowadays Money in the Bank hurts people more than it helps them.
Oh, man. Bask in charge here. Now he's in Money in the Bank hurts people more than it helps them. All right. So this is an interesting one here. But like, if you look at, all you got to do is look at history to determine whether or not he's right or wrong. So you look at this year's Money in the Bank winner, kind of still to be determined, Damian Priest.
Yeah, up in the air.
Up in the air. I think that him getting Money in the Bank, kind of a big deal for him, but like you still got to stick the landing. Like that's the thing about Money in the Bank, you got to stick the landing, right?
And then historically speaking, Vince always booked Money in the Bank winners where they'd win the briefcase, they'd lose a bunch, he'd get buyer's remorse, whatever you want to call it, second guess the decision, and then not really do anything interesting past maybe a cash in to pop numbers, and then as soon as he possibly could, get the belt right off him.
So that's a good point. But can we generally consider Money in the Bank for the men anyways? I think the women have had a much better sort of success rate since they started a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But with the men, is it kind of like the Heisman Trophy, how there's like the Heisman curse, right?
Yeah.
Like think about it. Otis lost it in a cheesy courtroom segment to the Miz.
Again, it's a situation where Vince was captivated by somebody. The briefcase was on the individual. He's like, why did I do that?
Yeah. Then they put it on the Miz to get it onto Lashley, okay?
Yeah.
Before that, I don't know who else. Austin Theory just this past one.
Terrible.
That was awful. That was awful.
Terrible.
Before Otis, what was before Otis?
That would have been 2019.
Money in the Bank. Hold on, Money.
I mean, you could say I know Baron Corbin was before that, but Baron Corbin, another situation where
that was a terrible one.
They put the idea of putting the briefcase on Baron was sound, but the whole thing about Baron, the whole summer he was just utterly humiliated at every turn.
Yeah, right. Big E. I mean, if you want to talk curses. I'm just saying. I'm not a believer in the supernatural.
See, I think putting the briefcase on Big E was the right call, and I was hoping that they would have some significant plans for him. But the way he cashed in, the way he was booked as champion.
Look, we can all agree that this is all down to Vince's terrible creative.
And that's what it is.
Past,
yes. And since this is going to be like Priest is kind of the first briefcase holder during Triple H's heading up creative, it remains to be seen what's going to happen from this point. It seems like there's a story. At least they're telling a story with the briefcase. The briefcase is an albatross for Judgment Day, and that's kind of the story they're telling. Now, whether that's going to spring where Priest leaves Judgment Day so he can actually have more success cashing in, or he's going to lose a briefcase because of something with Judgment Day.
We might be leading to a new era of Money in the Bank is what you're saying. Because it's Triple H, we're leading to a new era of everything. But going back in time, Brock winning it in 2019, it's like, it's Brock, okay. So
why did he need to win it? No.
He didn't need it. Like, it really should be used to make somebody new. Like, for example, Braun Strowman, who looked like an absolute idiot.
He looked like an asshole.
And then he was able to get like a Hell in a Cell match, and then Brock Lesnar got that match DQ'd or whatever it was.
It was a no contest Hell in a Cell match.
Corbin was before him. We talked about him.
Terrible.
Dean Ambrose. Good.
Cash in that night.
Perfect idea.
Cash in the
Perfect
91.
idea.
Yep.
I thought Sheamus's Money in the Bank was used really well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Seth was the best. Before that, Damian Sandow, Randy Orton, thumbs up.
They messed up Sandow's.
Yes, but recently I'm hoping they dig Money in the Bank out of the ground with Damian Priest, man. I hope they do that.
I hope so too. Matthew McGee here says Seth Rollins' gimmick at the moment is his worst that he's had. Not knocking his work though. I don't know, the generic babyface Seth Rollins, where he had basically no character. I feel like that was the worst gimmick he's ever had.
I agree with you. I think this is, to be honest with you, I think this is his best gimmick. But so many of the hot takes on here were Seth Rollins thumbs down.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people are just over it.
Of Seth.
I think once you get into a point where it's like, I'm just going to stand here and the crowd is going to sing, and I've been champion, and on top of that, like I can get hit in the head with a briefcase, eat a coloss, and still kick out. People are going to be over that stuff.
So I think what the issue with Seth's character now is not that it's bad, is they've kind of made it, for the most part, when he takes the sunglasses off, different story. But for the most part, it's a pretty one-dimensional deal, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
When he takes the sunglasses off, then he keeps it real. But when he keeps the sunglasses on, it's kind of one note.
I think there's been elements of him along the way, and I'm even kind of surprised that they haven't gone full bore with, we joke constantly on the show, obviously, about him selling back, but I thought that was a really cool, plot idea of him. I'm working myself down to the bone here, and everything is giving out. Yeah. And they've really sort of deviated away from that at this point.
I know. Well, they'll bring it up when it's convenient for them.
Yeah, right.
Next up, S. Morgan here says Darby Allin is overrated. All he does is take ragdoll bumps for the whole match, then do a few reckless dives and coffin drops and roll up the opponent. I still find that, depending on his opponent, really entertaining. So
here's a hot take.
When he wrestles Joe, I can watch him wrestle Joe 7 days a week, and I would never get bored. It was fantastic. Yes, it was fantastic.
Ridiculous.
It was fantastic.
So it cracks me up because overrated, I don't know. Here's a hot take for you. His time with Sting should have been cut in half from what it is.
Yeah.
I think Sting, in the end, over the past year or so, has held him back.
Yeah.
I think they probably should have done like a Darby Sting feud.
Yeah, but they didn't want to do that, so it wasn't going to happen.
And they didn't want to do that. But I think in order to have helped Darby, they should have done that, because I feel like he might be worse off post Sting than he would have been had they had him split like a year ago.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
I overrated. It remains to be seen because he's on Sting Island.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he's overrated.
Yeah,
I think that he's got a lot to offer in terms of the total package.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What do you think about this one? It's Boyer. Oh, it's Boy Jr. says, heel WWE champion Daniel Bryan was better than the Yes Movement Daniel Bryan. Now,
more entertaining, yes.
The Planet's champion is what we're talking about.
Yes, where he had the organic belt. I loved that run as champion. I thought he was wildly entertaining. They gave us the NWO Eric Rowan bit.
Yeah.
That whole run.
The moment when he was walking on the concourse yelling at everybody was probably one of my favorite Daniel Bryan moments ever.
Maybe my favorite moment of his in WWE is when he got Fresno, California to cheer for the fact that they're the most polluted city in the state.
You're right. He is, I think, in my opinion, he's more fun as a heel than a good guy.
Yeah.
The thing about the good guy was that was a special moment. The whole Yes movement was a special like time, era, story, whatever you want to call it. You can't do a lot with that once you're champion. I mean, unfortunately, he got injured after he won
that is the chase, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was all about the chase. And that was specifically just all about forcing the WWE into doing what the fans wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Nick says, while slightly entertaining, R-Truth is killing the Judgment Day as a serious threat in the WWE, which they had spent over a year trying to build up after Edge's time as leader.
I don't think Judgment Day, apart from Rhea Ripley, has ever been a serious threat. Watch Finn Balor's feud with Seth Rollins. Bumbling the whole time.
Yeah.
So much of Judgment Day's story is them trying to get out of their own way to get any measure of success. Again, apart from Rhea Ripley. She is the one, without a doubt, successful member in Judgment Day who can do it herself. Everybody else needs help from everybody else.
So they talk about that's a good point, because they do sort of talk about we need to make sure that people see us as a threat more than they're actually seen as a threat. They do have a lot of hardware. They've got the tag titles, they've got the Money in the Bank, and they've got, the title with Rhea. I wonder if the idea here is their sort of saga as a serious dramatic act has been waylaid by the R-Truth stuff.
I guess the hope is introducing R-Truth into the equation, and then, if down the road Priest splits from Judgment Day, gets kicked out, and how R-Truth plays into that, like we talked about in the Raw recap this past week. There you have the drama. There you have emotion. And right now they're spending the time building the bonds between Priest and R-Truth. And yes, is it comedic? But doesn't mean it can't lead to something more interesting and weighty and dramatic down the line.
I think it's also getting the Judgment Day as an act more over than they were before, because everybody loves truth. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with this. And it's not like, I don't think like Judgment Day, if they had any, so to speak, edge, I don't think that's been taken away. They beat the shit out of R-Truth this past week, and they're obviously manipulating him, and we'll see how that goes as you try to play footsie with me. That's okay. You can do that. Next up, Johnny Ray says, this is an interesting one, and I want to let's see what the people think about this. Johnny Ray says, breaking a long world title streak in the WWE has never actually made anyone. Just going down the list, Ivan Koloff was a transitional champion. Stan Stasiak, transitional. Billy Graham was transitional. Iron Sheik was a transitional for Hogan between Backlund. Says, was The Rock made when he ended CM Punk's title reign, or did Andre or The Ultimate Warrior have more success after they ended Hogan's longest reigns? I'd argue not. The only one I can think of wasn't even a world title reign, and that was Brock breaking Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But can you think of like a long world title reign that made somebody?
Didn't JBL have the belt for a year before Cena beat him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's about the best I can do.
That's a good one. Case could be made. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like when you think about Roman coming up in like beating everybody sort of or outlasting everybody else's reigns, breaking their records.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of more like current examples.
Well, I would say that the attempt was made for the Warrior. I know Hogan didn't have the belt for the entirety of 7 years when the Warrior finally beat him, but he had it for a better part of that time, apart from a year when Macho Man had it.
Yeah.
I think the idea was that would make Warrior. Unfortunately, the Ultimate Warrior got in the way of Ultimate Warrior's success.
Yeah.
And that led to that not working. I think had the Warrior not been a bit of a mess, by a bit I mean a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe that win would be looked back on differently.
Yeah.
But I think that was the idea. That was, I think, in Vince's mind, to a degree, not in Hogan's mind, definitely. In Vince's mind, a bit of a passing of the torch. Warrior is going to carry the company into the 90s after Hogan, for the last 7 or so years, was the face of the WWF.
It's always a bit messier than just, here's a guy who's been, or girl, or woman, sorry, who's been champion for a long time. Now you're going to pass the torch. It's always messier than that. Like, Rock didn't get Hogan's torch until, like, well after Hogan was way past his prime.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what other torch passing moments have there really been. The Cena JBL one is a good one, but it's not like, I don't know if any, I think JBL was like a year-long transitional champion.
I know he was. It wasn't like JBL was looked on as like a legendary all-time title reign.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Just because he had it for years doesn't mean it was a good title reign.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could, I don't know. Like, was there ever like a proper torch passing from like Austin or even like Triple H? You know, like, he tried to get other people over. He tried to get Batista. He got Batista over. Orton, right? Exactly. The Evolution guys.
Roman.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's see here. Yusuf Sidat. I don't know half these names, man. He just says Nexus were not good.
Steve agrees with that one.
I'm on. Yeah, that's a Steve take as well. I if you look at like the pieces of Nexus, and I don't think Cena burying them at SummerSlam would have ever changed anything. I think it would have been like a short-term thing. But it's one of those things you never know. Like, I don't know, maybe Ryback would have been amazing after the Nexus.
You know, I think the one person people more than anybody else point out as someone who could have been a potential main eventer coming out of the Nexus is Wade Barrett.
Oh, but he had more opportunities after that. That's why I always point out he had more opportunities after that.
But then, like, Cena literally buried him in a pile of chairs. That's hard to get out of that. And then he had some injury issues too. So
yeah, he had injury. I mean, that's what happens when you get buried by chairs. Zub says Mr. Perfect is the WWE's biggest fumble. The fact he was never world champion baffles me when he was by far one of the most over guys in the company and one of the best technical guys in the world.
I think injuries might have gotten in the way of what he could have accomplished in WWE because he was hurt quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Another name I think you got to mention along with Mr. Perfect is Razor Ramon Scott Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The fact that he never got a title run in the 90s when he was super over, especially as babyface. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of baffles me. I
kind of wonder like what the deal with that would have been because he was Intercontinental Champion.
A lot,
obviously. A lot. And he seemed to be, I don't know. I kind of wonder if he hadn't gone, if like the Attitude Era was right around the corner. I can't think of a better dude for the Attitude Era than Scott Hall.
I know.
Kid Run Over. I love this one. Says, as a younger fan who's only been watching since 2015, he says we got him into wrestling. I can't bring myself to enjoy any wrestling pre-Attitude Era. He said, I've tried dozens of times, but I just can't for the life of me be entertained by Golden Age wrestling, except early Rumbles, which is an interesting caveat.
Yeah.
I understand and respect the history of wrestling. I just don't care to watch it.
So I wonder if this is specific WWE prior to Attitude Era, because I could get that. Because it's a situation where it's way over the top characters. A lot of them very one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the stories, by and large, are really basic. The TV presentation is completely different than what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's just any wrestling before, like, 1997. Because I feel like if you watch stuff outside of WWE where the presentation is a bit more realistic, not quite focusing so much on these huge over-the-top characters.
Yeah.
Then maybe that might appeal to you a bit more.
Like if he was like watching like Jim Crockett back in the 80s.
Yeah. You watch them like the early Starcades and stuff like that.
Like 85 NWA was way different than 85 WWF. Yeah. It's like way different.
Yes.
And it is, I mean, you can sort of see shade, like the some of the stuff they were doing, you can see shades of, they're obviously like you said, a lot more grounded storylines, which is eventually sort of where like they try to go with the Attitude Era. It's not sort of cartoonish characters. That's a really good point. Like, the WWF is definitely a much different sort of, geared towards children beasts.
Yes.
And also the wrestling was slow and sloppy.
It was.
And then, here, we're going to end on this one because I don't know who this person is. Canis 2020. But in my opinion,
they running for office
4 years ago.
Yeah,
this might be a Hilton Burner account because he says in a 3-way match between Steve, Larson, and Hilton would do some stacking. Hilton is the real star of Going in Raw.
How are we getting? How is Hilton the real star when he's hardly ever on?
He hasn't been on in like years. I don't think. That being said, I do feel like in most feats of physical athleticism,
Yeah.
he could probably stack us, dude. He could probably stack us. He could probably
I
stack us.
don't know. It's two of us.
He has played in B League rec basketball with guys who have played in Europe professionally before.
I'm aware of that.
When he told me that, I was like, God damn. He's like the 12th man on like of like a squad of 12 men in Europe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I'll tap out to Hilton. I think he's
there's
going to
two of
stack us, dude.
There's two of us. We'll at least put up a fight.
I just don't know who's going to be on the bottom stack. You and I play basketball every week to determine that. It's still the jury's out, man. Oh, don't look at me. Don't look at me.
I'm not going to volunteer to be on the bottom.
After yesterday, I'm not volunteering. I'm just saying it ain't a certainty. It's me, man. Anyways, that's going to do it for the show today. Thanks, everybody, for your hot takes. We appreciate it. Drop us some more hot takes in the comments, or you can wait for our next community tab thread. It's going to be going up next week. Hit that sub, hit that like. We'll see you around.
Goodbye.